Alright guys, welcome back. We're at the track here at Willow, and today we're gonna go ahead and change the engine mounts out on the Z. I did get in touch with the guys at Z1 the other day, and the new engine mounts have arrived already. They actually showed up before we did. So we're gonna get the Z, and oh look, there's a tumbleweed passing us by. That's new for me, at least, being from Mississippi. We're gonna move some cars around and pull the Z over to the shop and get started. So, hey, where are you going? Okay. All right, well, Carl's gone.
I'll be Carl.
Okay, here you go. All right, so let's get the car moved over there. Actually, let's go move the other cars first. Oh, this one's tight. Go ahead and put this in here in case we need it to hold the engine. May try it with a jack, but in case I don't want this thing blocked out here. It was growing.
I do the same thing when I'm around your Z, so it's okay.
It'll go in more. It'll go in more.
What is this?
It's S14. I think it's KAT.
See it up in there.
Yeah, it's got like a little auto mount on it.
We need your little pointer for things like that. Fudge!
Oh,
Again?
so sad. We're really not accustomed to the wind out here, that's for sure. As you can see, you know, in the other video I was talking about how the intake manifold was rubbing the hood. Some little chafe marks right there on both sides. And I actually took a file and I filed down these two ribs where it was touching on the manifold. But it still is rubbing a little bit more than, and I don't want to just keep shaving it. So when I ordered the mounts, I knew I needed those because the test pipes were bumping the bottom of the floor. So what we're gonna do, I think we may use the engine hoist. I'm gonna try using maybe a jack and some wood first under the Bellhausen oil pan. We're gonna get the front of the car up and drop the cross member down just enough so we can get the old engine mounts out and put the new ones in. So let's get started. All right, guys, let's open these things up, see what they look like. Nice. They have the manual in the box, so I don't have to go online and look it up. And they also provide Loctite, which I assume is going to need to be used. Okay, so they do two versions of these mounts. One is solid, and these are the urethane filled one. And it really looks like this outer shell just kind of clamps over the top. Has these little set screws here. So we're going to start tearing the car apart, and then we'll see about adjusting them. I believe they come out of the box at the factory height. We're going to lower it probably about an 1/8 inch or so. And that's going to help with the, like I said, the chafing on the hood and the test pipes bumping the floor. Now, I may have mentioned this in another video, but I'll just go over it again if you're just watching this one. Whenever I did the swap, I bought some OE replacement mounts, not OEM, so it's not original Nissan mounts. They're just original replacement, so they're from like Rock Auto or some site like that. And I think that sometimes those are kind of cheaper quality, and they may be a little bit taller. Now, I don't have another factory mount to compare it to right now. In a couple of days, we'll be pulling the engine out of Jay's 350Z over there, and I'm gonna have these out at that point. We'll compare the two then. And then of course, when we remove these, we'll compare them to the height of these Z1 ones, and that may be an indication as well, since these are set at the factory height. But for now, we're gonna start tearing this thing apart. Alright, so we got the factory ones out. It was pretty easy. And let's just see the height. They actually do look like they're a little bit taller. No? So these do appear to actually be at the factory height. But the test pipes that I'm running are some cheaper aftermarket test pipes. They're resonated. That was the main reason I got them. It gets really expensive to get some of the higher end resonated pipes, and I wanted to have something that was more disposable, like if I dirt dropped or board slid the car on the edge of a track somewhere. It wasn't a $500 piece to replace. I could just replace it with another $150 set of test pipes. So that may actually be the reason that they're bumping the floor. But like I said, with the HR swap, where they're rubbing the hood, we're definitely going to take these mounts apart. Like I said, they come at the factory setting, so we're going to look in the instructions here and see about lowering them down a little bit. That there's actually this little set screw here in the side, and it's going to go through the cup, and it actually locks into this spanner type key, which they're calling the motor mount adjuster. So I'm assuming we're going to loosen those, and that will let me adjust it further in. Once the motor's been reinstalled, the lower nut must be between 65 and 72 foot-pounds. Again, it is recommended that some form of thread locking compound be applied for additional security. Actually, looking through this other hole here, the one that doesn't have the set screw in it, the set screw is only going to be on one side, and on the other hole you can see that this is threaded. So the inner diameter of this cup here has got threads cut in it, and the outer diameter of that adjusting plate that you see on the illustration here is threaded, and it threads into it. So what we're going to do is loosen this little Allen key up, this locking one, and we'll actually tighten it up in there, and then when we get it to the position we want it, then we'll tighten it back down and lock it into place. So this one, from flange to flange, with both spacers installed and with the spacer and the heat shield installed, is at 104.5 millimeters, and that is about exactly where the Z1 ones are. These are actually set at 104 even. So 104 will be your factory height from flange to flange. I'm assuming that the 0.5 is coming from this little heat shield that we probably won't be installing, because this mount kind of shields itself, since it has an aluminum outer shell, and this has all the exposed rubber. So these are definitely at the factory height, and we are going to go, let's see, if I want to drop it at 1/8 inch, then 25 millimeters in an inch, divided by 8. We're going to drop it down like 3 millimeters. Actually, we may go more than that. Let's see. So you could actually lower these down as low as around 96 or 97. So you can lower the engine about 8 millimeters overall, which would give you around a 1/4 inch of adjustment as far as lowering. And as far as going higher up, I really don't think that we need to cover that or check for that, because I don't really think anybody's going to be raising their engine. So if you do, you know, whatever space limitation you're running into, you should definitely, you know, make your measurements and make your judgment call as far as that. But for this video and for our application, we're going to be lowering it. So we're just kind of comparing how low this will go over the factory height. Okay, so now loosen the set screw here, and I noticed that since the bolt here is still tightened on the bushings are swollen out into the inner diameter of this housing. So you'll have to loosen the locking screw and also loosen this bolt up to release that tension so that that bushing can relax and allow you to screw it back into the housing. Yep, just a little bit to break it loose. And now it seems to be coming out pretty easily. This is a 17 millimeter. In case you're having to adjust yours, it would be much easier if you have a ratcheting wrench, but I believe I left mine back in Mississippi, so it's just going to take me a little extra time. But if you have a ratcheting end wrench, this would definitely be a good time to use it. Alright, now once you get it loosened up enough, you'll be able to feel that it's loose in the, you'll feel it rocking around in the housing, and then you'll know that you can start to screw it in. Now if you're watching this hole, you'll see that that has a keyway that this little set screw is locked into. Whenever I go to turn it, it actually obstructs the hole. So you're going to turn it, there's more keyways there. See, that's one position. So I'm going to see where it is now that I've decompressed it, and it's actually at about 105 millimeters. So I'm going to move it in, like I said, around 3.1 millimeters, which is 1/8 inch, and then we'll tighten it back down. Yeah. Alright, so I originally thought you could lower them about 8 millimeters, but I noticed as I was screwing it in, it actually disappears from the hole. And I'm going to have to make sure that that set screw is locked in place. So it looks like you really can't lower it that much. I'm going to put the set screw back in to hold it in place, and then we'll tighten that bolt back down on the bushings. Alright, so if you'll notice, I just took this little screwdriver to put against the wrench. Give me something to kind of have leverage on so I can get that bolt back to its original tightness. Once you're satisfied that you've got it tightened back down to the original tightness, now you're ready to put your motor mount back in. But before we do, let's see how much room we saved. These are at around 102, a little less than 102.5 millimeter now. And they were, alright, so we've lowered it a little bit more than 2 millimeters from the factory location. You could have gone a little bit further, but this set screw would be actually pushing into the bushing, and I didn't need much clearance, and without the vibration from the factory mount, it's going to fix all the issues. So that's where we're going. We've saved about 2 millimeters of clearance, a little over. We're going to do it to the other one, and then we'll put these things back on. Getting rid of the vibration from the factory one is going to help a lot too. So after you loosen it, it decompresses the bushing. Pull the set screw and you just thread the whole assembly in. Get it where I really wanted to go.
How's the assembly look like? I don't know if you can make any sort of quick fix on this.
stock air boxes, my stock radiator can, OEM radiator hoses. I did do my little T-bolt clamps on there. The engine mount's lowered, and I was actually able to go 2 millimeters lower than the factory. Now, if you wanted to, and you had the access to like a lathe and a good tap and die set, if you wanted to move this set screw up further and machine some more of the base off of the skirt here, you could actually go shorter. But with an unmodified version of these, you can go safely 2 millimeters lower than stock, and you'll save another 0.5 millimeter by removing the heat shield, so you gain 2.5 millimeters of clearance overall, and that's where I've locked these down to. So now that I've got that done, let's get them put back in. As if you'll notice, if I can get the camera in place here, that I have moved the mounts where the opening is facing towards the back. That's just so when you're going on the road, rocks and debris won't fly into it. It'll be facing towards the back of the car. As you can see, if it was facing towards the front, it would catch a lot of trash in it. Really won't make much difference, but I'm just trying to keep it from getting any buildup inside of there. So, just a suggestion, this is not required, and it was definitely not on the install sheet, but I just wanted to make note of that.
Oh, you already know I am.
Alright, so now that we have the new mounts on, let's fire this thing up, take it on the road, see how it is compared to the stock ones. Seems much crisper already, just low speed, moving around. And it's not vibrating the whole car to death, you know. A lot of times with the aftermarket mount, you know, your rearview mirror will be just screaming, making all kinds of noise, rattling, and the door panels and the dash. And this is actually really tame. This is something that I would put on a car that I was daily driving that may not necessarily be a track car too, because these cars are so common to have engine mount failure. So good job from the guys at Z1. You made another excellent product, and thank you again for getting these things out to me so quickly, all the way over here in California now, after we rush shipped all the other parts to Mississippi before this trip. Yeah. So that's going to be it for this video. We will see you in the next one.